Can I convey to you the sense of exasperation? This exasperating moon. Nothing makes any sense. Everything seems dumb. I want to just say, you're dumb. I don't want to say you're dumb. I want to say to myself, you're just a dummy, dumb. Your ideas are dumb. This whole thing is dumb. This is just a big, dumb experiment. And not just this podcast is a dumb experiment. Like all of life is just a big, stupid, dumb, hard experience. Ugh. Hello, welcome back, some of you. I'm your host, Ann Headley, and this is my podcast. What is going on anyway? This is the place where I take a look and a listen every 2 weeks on the full and new moon to how life is feeling for me, and I share it with you. I use both my intuition and imagination to share a story of now. And then I ask for a little extra help. I use the ancient divination practice of the I Ching, and sometimes I pull a card from one of my favorite decks. I've given myself this job, this hobby, this task, this puzzle of appearing here every 2 weeks. And it's so anti-sense. Like it does not make good practical sense. I don't want to say it's anti-capitalist, but I certainly am not doing this as a money-making scheme. This is not necessarily smart in that realm. It's not a smart use of my time or resources if I was trying to use it as a means to a capitalistic end. I'm not selling anything. I'm not trying to get sponsored. I mean, I did try in the beginning. They offered me some sponsorship and I think I made $15, and then I wasn't eligible because I didn't have enough listeners I don't know how this all works exactly, but this is not a pity party, right? I'm happy. I'm fine. I thought it was kind of silly to read those ads. I'm just not sponsored. I'm here using this platform to express myself, self-expression. And I was like, I have this feeling of exasperation. I want to blame it on the moon. I want to say, it's not me. This is the sensation of the moon, this sort of exasperated fullness. And I was texting with my friend saying I was just about to record the podcast today and I'm on this sort of feeling of, why do I even do this? And she wrote, I think the answer is because you are a unique expression of the universe expressing itself. And guess what? That feels like enough. That's enough reason to carry on. And so I also wish that for you, whatever you may do, whether you get any external worldly validation or not, just you being you is necessary, is needed, it's wanted and desired. By what and by whom, you can decide that. If it's by God or the goddess or the universe, or just because, doesn't it feel nice to believe that you matter, that you're taking up space, you're occupying yourself and your body matters. It feels good to believe that, even if just for a moment. Now, usually I begin the podcast by saying how I'm interested in paying attention to life as it is. And I think it's worth pulling that apart just a little bit. It's not totally self-explanatory. Paying attention to life as it is has a lot of different facets. I'm going to try and explain it to you through this little anecdote. On Saturdays, there is this neighbor, Mr. Tripp, who for $5 a week will pick up our bags, which have been paid for and designated for our transfer station. And he takes them for us. It streamlines Saturdays, so I don't have to add an awkward leg. Our dump or transfer station isn't especially on the way anywhere, and it's really nice to feel just sort of supported this way. But what I'm getting to is that this past Saturday, Mr. Tripp stopped, and it was a snowy, icy, dirt road sort of weather time, and I noticed him out the window, and I remembered the time ran up to him and greeted him like a long-lost friend, and how much he loved her immediately, when another neighbor pulled up behind him and they started chatting. And I was watching this like a nosy neighbor, looking through the bushes a little bit. I was inside, but they couldn't see me. And I realized they were having this conversation with no realization that I was witnessing them. I'm watching them like I'm watching a show out my Saturday morning window. And how comfortable I felt to watch this human interaction from afar. There's no responsibility on my part to participate outside of witnessing. It's a similar feeling inside of me to watching a fire. It's different than watching TV. I was watching something real happening. And it was a friendly interaction, and I was just noticing them. There's no story. There was no judgment. There was no drama. It was just watching. And I thought to myself, this is watching life as it is. I don't have a stake. I don't have a point of view. I don't have a reason to understand what I'm seeing outside of witnessing it. And I thought, this is what I mean when I say accepting life as it is. I'm not invested in any one point of view here. And that becomes curious to me. And I have to ask myself, why do I hold so tightly to the way I see things? And I understand that from a really basic ego point of view, the ego as the ahankara, the I former, the thing that keeps us together, that keeps us connected and attached to our bodies. The personality is important to us from a survival standpoint. We have to stay in this form, this location, to do our doing, to occupy ourselves. But can't we also, and I know we've all experienced this, at the same time inquire about how it might be to see things from other angles too? And what happens to me is this embracing sense of curiosity. When I inquire safely and ask, is it also true somehow that the opposite of what I believe can also be true? Something sort of bursts open inside of me. I've talked about the work before, the stuff of Byron Katie. She has these easy to understand worksheets that help you flip situations, especially judgments that you might have. I find it extraordinary to feel it's like an internal kind of emotional, mental stretching, to feel that I can actually see or feel or understand the point of view that's opposite to the one that I have a stake in. And I think that's a really interesting exercise for us in this world, to understand points of view that are different from our own. Not just lip service to it, but having a feeling of, yep, I can see how that could also be. And I wonder about this time right now and how perhaps there is this bit of a collective shift in our commonly held ways of believing in how the world works and how things work. This most recent news in our last moon cycle of the CEO of United Healthcare having been shot, and there was a flood of grievances over how healthcare is managed in the U.S. People expressing that the shooter, while agreeing murder is despicable, acted as a kind of Robin Hood hero. He acted in a way that expressed some kind of truth that many people connected to immediately. And it feels like a revolutionary act, something that was sort of foreshadowed and promised to us in this time. The revolutionary act is someone behaving in a way, this vigilante behavior, that people matter. I think, and I don't know whether this is true or not, I'm just saying this is what people got out of this situation, that it's important that corporations also consider something more than profit. And it's hard to understand that the message could only be received by such a drastic threat. And the power of what it means to bring vigilante violence to the table is being felt by people in a way, in their imaginations, I think, that creates a kind of solidarity that a month ago felt unreachable. Interesting. Right after the election, I did not feel like I was going to see so much solidarity. You know, I kept wondering, when will we see evidence of some of these big changes? And started to feel doubt about that happening. And I wondered, what will the revolution look like? We're being promised a revolution here. I'm not interested in that because it feels very frightening to me. I mean, I'm not interested in doing anything like that myself. I'm curious about it, but it feels frightening. So I feel myself kind of peeking out that window that I was talking about, just wanting to see it from afar. I don't want to take a strong point of view, but it does seem clear that the revolution is here. What I can't understand or really fathom is where it will take us. And what I'm hoping is that this revolution is a shift in the way we see and think about things. A shift in what we believe, and a shift in where we land inside our own inner system. I have talked about chakras before. Being in the heart chakra is a completely different basis for negotiating, for commerce, than being in the third chakra. You know, the third chakra really is, I am better than you for this and this and this reason. It doesn't have to be that way. It can also be a completed, self-satisfied sense of mastery over something. I wanted to know this, now I know this. I wanted to investigate how I would be in this way, and now I know. That's a healthy and completed sense of third chakra. But third chakra is also, I want to go get my master's degree and make a lot of money and find my way up the ladder. Climbing the ladder is also third chakra energy. Fourth chakra energy is, I see where I am and how I connect to other folks, and I see that this web of connection is more important and supportive to me than standing in a hierarchical system. In America, it just seems obvious to me that universal healthcare is the right next move. And what I wonder about is, how do we manage the grief of all of these years of suffering that have been endured because of its lack? We have to become adept at grieving and building simultaneously. And this perhaps is the work of humanity. And really, we only need to look at our ancestors to find the resolve to carry on, to understand or to ground ourselves into all that has been, so we can ground ourselves into our bodies in the earth now, so that we can ground ourselves into being part of the fabric of the future, whether we're here or not, because we're not going to be here forever. I want to read you a quote from, it was probably a commencement address by Audre Lorde, and this was in 1989 at Oberlin College, and this fell out of one of my notebooks as I was preparing. Your power is relative, but it is real. And if you do not learn to use it, it will be used against you and me and our children. Change did not begin with you, and it will not end with you, but what you do with your life is an absolutely vital piece of that chain. The testimony of your daily living is the missing remnant in the fabric of our future. There are so many different parts to each of us, and there are so many of us. If we can envision the future we desire, we can work to bring it into being. We need all the different pieces of ourselves to be strong, as we need each other and each other's battles for empowerment. That surge of power you feel inside you now does not belong to me, nor to your parents, nor to your professors. That power lives inside of you. It is yours. You own it, and you will carry it out of this room. And whether you use it or whether you waste it, you are responsible for it. And that feels provocative in the sense of there is a right way to do it. I don't think that's what we should take from this commencement address. Hey, you graduated. Let's pretend we all just graduated from something. And that's our commencement address. I think what we take from it is that what and who you are, if you think of yourself like a web connected to all these different things, and all of your struggles are connected to other people's struggles, and how you show up, like the way I showed up today, and just like, back again. Now that I'm just doing it, I feel better, by the way. So maybe there's a little, what do you say? Tidbit? A little snack. There's a little snack there, which is maybe just do it. That's one way action might be something that helps with exasperation. That could be our message from this moon. Just a teensy bit of action to relieve the pressure of frustration and exasperation. So just us being us, and being free with that, being free to share the totality of our being with others. Oh, that's big. That's big. And I'm just going to say, for me, what comes up when I do that is I get just these big waves and surges of shame. I don't think they're just mine. I don't think like I'm the one that holds all the shame. There's just the story of shame and how it waves and surges through us. It's something like, could I get adept at digesting that? To just try to, wouldn't it be nice to digest that and like poop it out and just have it compost into something else? This like way of being controlled by shame. Ugh, right? Tired of it. Let's like eat it up like Pac-Man. Maybe now is a good moment to bring in a prayer of forgiveness. In this great reckoning, if that's what this is, I don't think we want, and I'm talking about like widely, I don't think we want to induce more harm. We want greater equality, justice, not bloodshed. We want to see the world change. We want people fed. We want universal health care. We want a basic living wage. We want housing for all. I don't want to cuss here, but for crying out loud, how do we let people be out in the cold? How do we do that just as a human, from human to human? I know we just get into the place where that's not my problem. I can't solve all the world's problems, but it's just gross of us at this time in human history that we let people be homeless. And I guess that speaks to the big issues of wealth inequality in the world today. And on to the prayer. This is Thich Nhat Hanh, beloved Vietnamese Buddhist monk who founded Plum Village in France in his later years. He died in 2022. And he is known for inspiring something called engaged Buddhism. And if you are a yogi, you might think of it as householder yoga. He died at 95 years old. So here's our prayer. If I have harmed anyone in any way, either knowingly or unknowingly through my own confusions, I ask for their forgiveness. If anyone has harmed me in any way, either knowingly or unknowingly through their own confusions, I forgive them. And if there is a situation I'm not ready to forgive, I forgive myself for that. For all the ways I harm myself, negate, doubt, belittle myself, judge or be unkind to myself through my own confusions, I forgive myself. And inside of this forgiveness, I have a question for you. What if the current version of you, and I mean precisely the immediate version of you, the now version, whatever is showing up, what if this is exactly what is needed in exactly this way for you to do your valuable work as a spiritual being? What if all the ways you might be right or wrong, or how you could be better, or how you could be optimized? I'm really mad at optimization. Like, I know I have this this push-pull about it that I'm going to talk about in a moment, but I'm going to leave that there for right this second. What I want to know is all the ways that you think you could be better. What if those things are exactly precisely what needs showing up to hold the space for life as it is? That's your character. That's your responsibility to be that, to feel the feelings around that, to manage and integrate and digest whatever let's not ask questions, just accept okay, this is me. This is it. This is how I'm showing up. Now, look, I say this as a woman going through menopause who has chronic migraines, and I'd love to fix it, be younger, stop my hot flashes, be in super fitness shape. And I question all of it. I feel shame. What if I didn't do that? What if I didn't feel the shame? Who is the shame for? And how does perpetuating shame, internalized, how does that keep other systems going that are taking us not in the direction that we wish for the world to be? Who benefits from me liking myself less? I think I need to ask that again. Who or what benefits from me liking myself less? And who suffers or what suffers? I know for sure when I'm involved in liking myself less, I am less connected. I isolate myself more. So I would say my friends suffer from that. I'm laughing because I wrote this. I think maybe I'm feeling a little less mad. I wrote this next bit for the podcast, and I'll carry on with it. I kind of want to just drop it, but you know what I'm mad about? I have been poked for blood tests a fair amount. First, as a young child for diagnosing alopecia, which for whatever reason was really hard for them to diagnose, or they had to rule out certain things. And then as an adult, after I had my pregnancies, my thyroid flew out of whack. So I had quite a lot of tests for that. And then most recently to do a tick panel. And I'm just going to say my body doesn't like it. My veins are not super easy to poke, and I usually get poked more than once, and sometimes there's bruising and it's sore, and my body just coils from it. I don't like it. And what makes me mad about this right now is that I feel so sure, like I have this belief, I have this faith that there's some way to read blood without taking it out of our bodies, like Star Trek style, and that perhaps there's some possibility for that technology, but we just haven't prioritized it. So I'm mad about it because I keep getting poked, right? I'm just going to carry on. Maybe this is the episode where I throw it all out there. We've got one more episode for this year. So let's go back to the UFOs. So do you remember when there was that congressional hearing and there were folks who gave testimony about experiencing what they considered to be UFOs or unexplained objects that seemed to have technology that was way beyond what we had, what was possible for us? The government has not issued any official confirmation of alien life. And what was said by the witnesses remains unverified. So we just don't know. But we certainly want to know, or at least I do. Weirdly, one of the last conversations I had with my dad before he died was something along the lines of, well, when you die, do you think you'll learn about everything? And do you think you'll find out what is the mystery around UFOs and if aliens really exist? And will you learn about intelligent life in the universe? I was kind of excited he might figure that out. I don't know if you find out when you die or not. But this points to the fact that clearly this is one of my curiosities. And I was having this conversation with my kids, and one of them was like, it's probably just another kind of military advancement that they don't want us to know about, or they can't let us know about. Like the B-2 stealth bomber was first publicly flown in 1989, but they were doing tests in the 70s, and it was top secret. And so his theory is that these weird sightings are probably just like basically military secrets, and that they're perfectly happy for us to think that they're aliens and UFOs. And I don't know, maybe. But what makes me mad about it, because let's get back to my mad, is that most people aren't that interested in military advancement and the industry of war and the constant warring and the whole military industrial complex, which I was like, does it represent the engine of our economy? So I asked Claude, my friend, my AI friend, and Claude was like, not really. It's more complex than that. But we can know that hundreds of billions of dollars annually are spent in the U.S. defense budget. It supports lots of different companies and jobs, contracting, manufacturing, research, and related industries. But an economy is more complex than just breaking it into what is military spending and what is not. So, I didn't find the devil in me again. And also, I'm not going to let go of the idea that some of that money might have gone to funding a way of reading blood without poking us with needles. So, and this is all kind of wrapped up in my worry of like, do I have a tick-borne disease? Why do I feel like not so great? And I don't understand. And what if they tell me this is just menopause and I just feel bad because and there's nothing I can do? And what if I'm really sick? Or what if I'm not? And what if this is in my head? And what if this is some co-disease that goes into the world of autoimmunity and just one thing and then the other? And the question I have is, why do I feel so alone in this? It's not that I can't talk to people about it, but really like, why haven't I developed a relationship with a physician in all this time that will sort of follow me through these paths? And I know that's like on me, but it's not like I haven't tried in my life to do this. I just feel like I'm really on my own. And I feel like a lot of people feel like they're on their own in their health journeys. And I know I've got my friends and my siblings and therapists. They all help me along the way. But I don't have that feeling from physicians. And it's just too hard, too costly. It's a crazy rabbit chase to figure mysterious illnesses out. And for me, in some ways, it's might be easier to learn how to live with it and adapt to it than figure out how to diagnose and resolve whatever's going on. And this is just like one little person who's fairly health conscious, who's got a lot of somatic sensitivity to see and feel what's going on. So I just feel like these are the ways that things could be better for us. Like I went to get the tick panel, and I still had that feeling in my body of like I'm being examined, like I was having a test, like I wanted to be good, that I wanted to not fail the test. There was it's just this strangest feeling, isn't it? I know I'm not alone in this. Just this feeling of other. I other myself in that place where I'm not totally showing up because I sort of, what is this, medical anxiety? I just can't be the only one with this, where I would rather almost not know. I just want to go in and be told everything's fine, and leave quickly. So I can feel this sort of, what if healthcare was completely different? What if it wasn't a for-profit endeavor? And so sometimes I just get to this place and I feel that exasperation, like everything feels so wildly out of bounds, out of sorts, different than we would want it to be. I don't know why I'm feeling so unhopeful at this moment. Maybe I'm tired, exhausted by hopelessness. Or am I exhausted by hopefulness? Both of them kind of take me out of this moment, the if-onlys and what-ifs that take us just ping-ponging from the past to the future. It's exhausting. So I don't know if right now this is the mood of the moon or this is just me. I love it when I can step aside and say, wow, this is how I feel. And it must be some sort of like real intuitive sense of the moment. And it just like everyone will feel like, wow, she really is reading this moon. Like I'm some kind of sensor to share the temperature of the times. But I don't believe that right now. This is just what's going on for me. And I've been wanting to talk about this. This comes back to the kind of shame thing that I was saying I want to get back to here. That what about wrinkles? And why do I think I shouldn't have them? 50 years old, I've got wrinkles, and I'm getting all these ads for frownies. So if you don't know what frownies are, they are these stickers. They're kind of like hard stickers. They call them like plasters that you put on your forehead at night, and you puzzle piece them onto your forehead so that you wear them all night long. And when you wake up, you don't have forehead wrinkles. And they, in the ads, because obviously I watch them, I'm like a hair's breadth away from buying them. I hope I don't. I hope by saying it out loud, I don't ever buy them. But you train your forehead not to wrinkle. And I'm like partly disgusted by even considering it. Because there's part of me that was like, that sounds perfect. But then I get really mad about it. Like, why do I want to appear serene when madness is everywhere? When I'm actually literally mad at things a lot. I think that is probably menopause. Like that, the hormone swings just make you feel a little wild and rebellious inside. What do we get out of being or appearing to be an island of serenity in a world gone mad? And why would I pay to look serene? Okay, I know some of the answers, right? Right immediately, I'm like, well, because beauty is transactional, because women have always used beauty in a transactional way. So of course we want to hang on to our sense of power around what we can, how we interact with the world in a powerful way. And older women become more and more invisible in that way. I don't think we become less powerful, but yeah, there's a little bit of something that's hard to let go of there. But maybe should we just absolutely look wild and gargoyle-like? Should we have that like what the fuck look on our faces all the time? I needed to buy some stuff for someone at Target, and I don't live near a Target, so I don't regularly shop there. So that's sort of a different experience for me to be in that store. And while I was picking these things up, I walked by a box of Starbucks hot chocolate. And because in the very old days of the 90s, when I lived in New York City and when Starbucks was sort of a newish thing, they weren't just everywhere, I used to get hot chocolate in winter and walk around keeping my hands warm, and they made it with milk, and it was my favorite. So I walked by that and I bought that box. It was nostalgia. I was buying nostalgia. And I got home and I made one and it was good. Like I remembered. And then for some reason I just counted the packets and I was like, what? But there's supposed to be 8. I don't know why I was so upset about it or focused on it, fixated on it. And I was like, wait, that is messed up. They can't say, I was so livid. They cannot say they're selling 8 packets and only have 7 in the box. I'm like, this is fraud. This is stealing. And also like, maybe there was a mistake in the packing robot and they should definitely know about this. And I know that most people wouldn't even count and probably let it go. And it's probably not that big of a deal. But I got on customer service with Starbucks. And because I'm not a Starbucks member, they said they can't see this interaction, even though I gave them the receipt. And they said, contact Target. And I was like, don't you want to know? Like there's this giant mistake. And no, they don't want to know. So Target said, bring the box in and you'll get a refund. And I said, but I already opened it. And they said, it doesn't matter. And I know, like, if you're in the retail industry, you probably know all of this. And I think what I'm pointing to is the waste, the bureaucracy of it all. You do this and this and this and that, and we want to kind of keep the customers happy, but we just kind of do what we want to do. It doesn't matter if it makes sense or not. And it just makes me think of this exponentially, of all the incredible waste involved in the way we do commerce in the world today. And so that's another reason to have the gargoyle face on. And especially as we enter the end of this year, it's easy to see how waste is part of our accepted normals, from having unwanted gifts to even excessive wrapping paper, shipping waste, the overbuying that happens this time of year, and of course, the food waste. I mean, what I'm saying is that we can see it in our own homes. We can see it at this small micro level. So we know that it's happening exponentially. And I was it takes me down the line of, well, why is it so hard to change these things? And back when I was getting those hot chocolates at Starbucks in New York, this was again in the 90s. I knew these 2 folks. And they started a business streamlining corporate waste. It was really interesting and it was exciting. And they got recycling programs in place for large office buildings in the city. And the work that they were doing was measurable, noticeable, obvious. The company was happy, but the mafia who controlled the trash collection, and I'm not making this up, I just pulled this out of Wikipedia. Until the mid-1990s, the Italian-American mafia controlled trash collection in New York City, fixing prices by extorting or murdering competitors or requiring them to join the price-fixing cartel. After an undercover operation convicted the leaders, trash collection costs dropped by $600 million. So this mafia was not happy with these friends of mine that were changing the system. And it's not that the mafia has a unique monopoly on wanting expected money in to remain the same or to at least increase. This is the mentality of capitalism. And so most people want to do this legally, but this doesn't include our morality, does it? So what's happening in the world is not ecologically moral. How do we get to this place where we have enough and we still want more? I'm asking that question personally and globally, like on all the scales. So the bigger question that I'm asking is, how do we make the space inside to comprehend this ecological disaster that we're facing? And it doesn't help me to go big. It helps me to go small because I feel like there may be small, actionable things that I can do that make me feel better about how I interact with the world. And again, it's just this sense of digesting grief. So I'm coming back to this. What am I digesting? Grief and shame. And what does it compost into? What does it turn into? I don't know, but I hope it's rich soil for us all to grow something in. Because it sure is a lot of shit. And because I believe art is one of the pathways to our salvation. I was telling you last time about how I don't believe in salvation. To our freedom, to our joy, art is the way to ourselves, to understand ourselves, to the inside. I pulled an art oracle card. You might know this deck. And we got Joseph Beuys. You also contribute to humanity's Gesamtkunstwerk, which is total work of art. Make sure your rabies shots are up to date. Symbolism is just one ambulance ride away. So Joseph Beuys claimed that as a World War II fighter bomber, he crashed in the Crimean Mountains, where nomadic Tartars covered his freezing body in animal fat and felt what would become his trademark materials. Beuys made fabricating personal history into an art form and believed that each person is an artist, contributing to humanity's Gesamtkunstwerk, total work of art. By the 1970s, his unorthodox approach to academics and shamanistic overtures won him dismissal from his professorship and a punch in the face from a student. An ambulance was not called until 1974, however, when it took Beuys to inhabit a room with a wild coyote for the performance work, I Like America and America Likes Me. So that sense of our life is our artwork, even if it takes us out of the standard of academia, even if it takes us out of favor from other people, the punch in the face, right? But when we consider our life's work our own masterpiece, that's something powerful.
Hit it, hit it, hit it, hit it, get it, get it, get it, get it.
Time.
Show them, girl, yeah.
Okay, it's time for our I Ching. Maybe take just a moment. Take a full breath. Pay attention to where you are right now. And what is the predominant question that you're holding? What's the question that arrives for you in this space right now? And I always ask, what will help us? What will help us understand this time, this moon? And the hexagram that we get back is 43, deciding. It's also breakthrough and resoluteness. And curiously, after talking about all of this sense of waste, one of the descriptions of breakthrough resoluteness says this: if increase goes on unceasingly, there's certain to be a breakthrough. Hence, there follows the hexagram of breakthrough. It means resoluteness. I like that. The question to ask here is, what do you stand for? How do you define yourself? What belongs in your realm, and where do you need to make a clean break? And I like this directness of these questions because I think that's what do you stand for, not just like in your ideal space, but who are you? Like taking a look at yourself. What do you stand for? How do you define yourself? It's just sort of like taking up your space. Who are you actually, without a stance or a point of view that it has to be one way or the other? But if you could see yourself from afar, who are you and what space do you occupy in the world? And can you understand that you are the ambassador for that space? Your soul is the ambassador for that space. Your soul doesn't care whether you're you or me. Your soul is just taking up the space. It's animating this actor of you. So from that perspective, the question is, what belongs in your realm of you-ness? And where do you need to make a clean break? I know for me, this idea of that, I still like the idea of Pac-Man, but that's because I like to play video games. I like to play Pac-Man. That idea of chomping up the shame, turning it into something else, turning it into fuel for something else, compost for something else, however you want to think about it. I might need to make a clean break of using shame to activate me. I would have done things in the past that if I was ashamed not to, but it wasn't coming from a deeper desire or inspiration inside of me. I'm going to read to you this interpretation from Ma Deva Padma, the Tao Oracle, for hexagram 43. However many rivers you have already crossed, a time will arrive when your tenacity and inner resolve are again put to the test. Such moments can be terribly disheartening and exhausting. Let's use the word exasperating as I began, with that feeling of exasperation. And they threaten to destroy your sense of progress. You may feel as if you're in a confrontation with a brick wall, as the hurdles that seem insignificant before appear insurmountable now. The tension is exacerbated by weakened resolve and the fear of making foolish decisions that could undermine what has been accomplished. When you find yourself in a crisis where everything seems at the point of breakdown, avoid reacting aggressively, getting defensive, or trying to combat the problems head on. Like being caught in quicksand, the more you struggle, the more you'll be sucked in. Surviving difficult challenges depends on your ability to stay centered, focused, and as calm as possible. Reacting emotionally to a crisis will only compound the difficulties. Be firm yet flexible, and work steadily to resolve the situation. It may take a good deal more time and energy than you expected, but adopting a non-dogmatic approach and keeping things in perspective is the solution now. Trying to restore harmony and at the same time avoid extremes of attitude or behavior can feel like taming wild animals that are running in every direction at once. Nevertheless, what is really at issue is more subtle than you think. Can you remain uncompromisingly focused on your goal? Take time to examine what has been motivating you and weed out any half-truths or grandiose and egoistic ideas you may have been harboring. Looking for the quickest way out of a bad situation isn't necessarily going to help and may actually divert you from the step-by-step work of taking responsibility for your actions. Any half-heartedness on your part will weaken your credibility and eventually create mistrust in others. Be as creative as possible and stay very alert while plotting a course through this minefield of difficulties. Only by deeply trusting in yourself and the power of intuitive guidance can you find a resolution. Even if you disagree with what others have to say, don't react or argue, but stay open and hear them out. When a breakthrough seems imminent, remember to remain alert. The moment of resolution will become apparent in due course. It cannot be forced. Resoluteness requires cool detachment, patience, and unwavering purpose. Being flexible enough to move with the changes without compromising your vision is the key to success. So I ask you, what is your goal? Really, really. And when there's like a broad goal like this, like for me, my goal would be to accept myself and my aging body, to love what shows up for me, even my illnesses, even my uncomfortableness with how I'm shifting and changing and aging. That's my goal, is to be happy about this, to be in love with myself. It's like this broad goal. And as I keep that in mind, I can watch what happens around me, and it helps with my discernment because I can say, oh, wait, that doesn't fit into my picture of loving myself. That doesn't fit, so maybe I can throw that on the compost pile. That's how I'm thinking of it. And the hexagram moves to the army. And if you love the I Ching, we got changing lines 1, 3, 4, and 5. I'm not going to read them, but you can look them up. It moves to the army, and whenever I get the army, I think, oh, who are our people? Who's your army? Who are your fellow soldiers? The questions are, what are you aiming for? How can you get more from your strengths? And with all your efforts, are you creating the life you want? Excellent question. We've gotten the army a bunch this year, actually. So that might be something for us to look at once again, returning to this sense of what actually are you aiming for? And who are the people around you that are also aiming for those things? So how you can get more from your strength is by not going it alone, but finding the folks that are aiming their trajectory in the way that you are. Like, find the people who love the things that you love and do it together. Don't go it alone is what I think every time I get the army. This can also be titled collective force. Legions, leader. Some of the words for this are organize, mobilize, lead. This time of collective force requires great discipline, organization, and righteous aims. Those in authority must have confidence in you, and you must gain support from the people around you as you continue in your endeavors. This energy of mass support can be tapped now if you are communicating effectively and if your goals are in accordance with the sentiments of society. Supportiveness and generosity toward others can accomplish the difficult task of uniting the masses. Originally titled the Army, this hexagram points to the necessity of organizing and experiencing this collective force. Although it warns against using it for dangerous warlike purposes, unless there exists no other alternative. Clearly, a strong leader is required for this task. While the time is especially auspicious for those in positions of authority, people can now be effectively led through education, generosity, and leniency. At the same time, they must be inspired by a noble vision and impressed by firm principles. Be generous now and accommodating in your personal relationships. Try to see your roles together in the context of all of humanity. Hold together with your loved ones and attempt to overcome any difficulties with the gravity of your collective force. This force, this kind of gravity, is the basis of organization and continuity, whether in a solar system or a love affair. And that brings us to the end. There you have it. I'm trying in my mind right now to kind of wrap it all up into a tidy little neat bow. I'm going to say that yes, exasperation, that sense of pushing against a wall, getting nowhere, is part of this moon cycle. And also, when we turn away from that wall and we turn back towards ourselves and towards each other, what do we find there? How can we gather together and focus together to create the world that we want? And not even the world that we want. I'm not trying to make this magnanimous. The life that we want to live, we're the ones responsible for that. We're the ones that by, doing the dishes today, we have a clean sink tomorrow. Talking totally to myself because I've got to go back over there and do some dishes so I can start the week with a nice, fresh, clean sink. As always, thank you for being here with me. You can find me at www.annheadley.com and also on Patreon, www.patreon.com/watermoonstudios. May you be well, and may you know peace. And may all beings everywhere, whether known to me or unknown, be well, and may they know peace. Until next time, bye for now.